It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, Top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and certainly in 2022, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and most importantly, the people's voice and the people's choice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, happy Monday to you all. This on the 20th of March. Spring is right around the corner. And I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, as well as on the Jersey First YouTube page and also on LinkedIn. Folks, always remember to check out all of our great social media platforms. Make sure you like us on Facebook, of course, Jersey First, as well as Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Also, make sure you follow me on my own Facebook page. You can't miss me, folks. I'm the handsome guy with the very nice trim beard here every week here on the show. Folks, also make sure you subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube and follow them on Instagram and Twitter, as well as my own Instagram and Twitter at the Fernando Zone. And wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you wherever you go. And folks, again, Jersey First TV, always educating, always being engaging, and always being, of course, educational, of course, every single week here on the broadcast. Of course, I cannot say enough about my amazing tag team partners here on the Jersey First team. Of course, Elizabeth Nader with brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative every Thursday, once again, and also bridging the gap with millennial conservatives and millennial superstars in their own right, AJ Malilo, and of course, Stephen Rombolo. Folks, new episodes of Bridging the Gap and the Nader Narrative broadcast every Thursday via Jersey First TV, of course, on the Jersey First TV YouTube page, and of course at jerseyfirsttv.org/TV. Folks, I cannot say enough, really, quite frankly, how grateful I am for all of you tuning in here. Folks, we have a great closing segment in just a little bit. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons that this show continues to do very, very well every single Monday night is because of not just you, my loyal viewing audience, but of course, with the outstanding guests that I bring you every single week. And of course, folks, I love the way you cheer me on. And speaking of cheering on, you know, let me send a little love right now to my New Jersey Devils. Let me have a little tea here. My New Jersey Devils still fighting in the Eastern Conference as we're winding down the season. I know, folks, could a fourth Stanley Cup be around the corner? I hope so for the New Jersey Devils. But again, folks, as we talk about cheering on, the way all of you cheer on every single week, watching the episodes live, sharing the replays on all your social media platforms, I cannot be more grateful. And it deeply humbles me when I see the traffic. And you know, folks, I'm not the most humble person around. So when I see these numbers every single week and monthly, hey, that traffic is due all to you, my amazing audience, but also to the outstanding guests, because we're not just talking politics here on the show, folks. We're also talking economics, issues involving the community, quality of life, and everything else that Jersey First TV stands for. And folks, this week is no exception. Joining me here live tonight, he is the executive director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance, and apparently a fan of the show. My good friend, David Rosenberg, joins us here tonight on Real Talk. David, how are you?
Good, doing fine, thank God. Thank you, Fernando, for having me on this week. I've been watching your episodes a couple of times, and you do a great job voicing your opinion and being a voice for sometimes the people that don't have the voice. So,
all right, well, I appreciate that, David. And again, I love fans of the program, and it's always great to have you on, folks. Again, if you're not familiar with the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance, it was built upon the foundation of belief in forward thinking and certainly the passion of supporting others. Now, it was established in 2015. The NJJBA has emerged out of the pursuit to connect and desire really to advocate for Jewish business owners all across the Garden State. As business challenges constantly emerge, to properly problem solve obviously requires the willingness to take risks, see things from an alternative perspective, and to have a solid support system. Folks, make sure you always check them out on their website, of course, also on Twitter as well. David, one of the things that's, and if you've watched the program, you know what a staunch advocate I am about good business policies and being a fiscal conservative and someone that, quite frankly, is just disgusted at the business climate, which we'll get to in a little bit. But overall, for you, what prompted you to get involved with the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance?
So it really happened by chance, I should say. It wasn't the intention to get in this space. I had growing up, I had a feel for politics, and I had a very, I wanted to help the community grow with communal growth. Um, so it happened by chance that I figured it would be a good idea. There was a new mayor in Bayonne, so going back Hudson County, right, Fernando? So all politics is local.
Correct.
So I figured it'll be a nice idea for some of the Jewish business owners in Bayonne to meet the new mayor and vice versa. So we put together a lunch for the business owners and the mayor. There was no organization or name or group. It was just a nice idea, and I was passionate about it, and we put it together. Um, it was very successful. We had like 20 people at that meeting. Going forward, we did a similar thing in Jersey City, and that's when we formed the organization. We got ourselves a name, and it started out as the Hudson County Jewish Business Alliance.
Well, and coincidentally, the office is located in Union City, so I was like, wow, it's right in my neck of the woods, and certainly an organization that continues to grow, not just in popularity, but certainly in membership. For those of you maybe aren't familiar with Hudson County, I know in northern Hudson County, there is a very strong Hasidic Jewish community, as well as overall Jewish community altogether. And obviously that spreads around all around the state, all the way down the shore, down to South Jersey, southwestern New Jersey, all the way out even as far as Morris County. So it's certainly an organization that has expanded exponentially since its founding, really about 8 years ago. Now, David, when we think about the business climate, we know that within the Jewish community, there are many Jewish business owners, right? And we
Right.
look at it from the perspective of, I think, no differently than we look at any immigrant group, right? We look at, a good work ethic, dedication, family oriented, willing to put in long hours, willing to invest. I mean, I think that's when we think about the Jewish business community, it's really no different, I would argue, than any other business community in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, business is business, and as I say oftentimes, money is always green, right? It's the same as so business issues that affect, one business usually affects the other business. It doesn't necessarily differentiate between races, religions, or color of skin. So that's why we, very much focus on general business needs and topics of interest. But then there are, some specific top issues that affect a Jewish-owned business more than others. To name one, at least, is anti-Semitism and safety security.
Well, and we'll get to that in a moment because it's certainly a very important topic. But aside from that, which is again very vital, when we think about the current business climate, what do you see as some of the challenges for Jewish business owners? Is it getting capital, let's say, through small business loans, which we all know interest rates are so high right now? We're talking about banks and the vulnerability of banks right now in this economic climate where many banks might not be interested or willing to disseminate loans to any business community. What would you say is probably maybe not one specific thing? Again, we'll talk about the impact of anti-Semitism in a moment because it's very crucial. But from the business components of it, what are some of the biggest struggles that you see among Jewish business owners?
So the things that you mentioned are real. That we're definitely heading into uncharted economic territory, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Basically, with the whole banking industry, and we see it started over here over last weekend with SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature, and then now it went over across the Atlantic with Credit Suisse was taken over by UBS. So yeah, I mean, businesses are scrambling. They don't know what's going to be next. There's definitely a lot of everyone is trying to look where their money is held and which institution and how to safeguard their funds. And especially now, going forward, if it's when it's so expensive to borrow money,
Sure.
and we don't know how it's going to affect the banking industry, if the banking industry will be willing to lend money going forward for the next nobody knows how long. Assets now and liquidity is very important to be able to survive this period of uncertainty and the downfall.
Now, David, let me ask you this, because I know that in many different immigrant communities, for example, again, I'm a member of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I know that many Hispanic-owned businesses are within the service industry. I know that obviously, I mean, there are attorneys, there's realtors, there are mortgage lenders, title lenders, everything else. But I would argue that for a large contingency in the Hispanic community, we see the service industry, restaurants, nightlife. That has become, I think, almost synonymous with not a majority, but a good portion within the Hispanic business community. Is there one dynamic or one demographic of business that you see is probably most prevalent among Jewish business owners?
So, I mean, I could talk about the Alliance. I would say most of our members are in manufacturing, distribution, or real estate, development, real estate operating. That's probably where the most of us are focused, most of our members. But there's definitely, a thriving Jewish-owned retail around the state, and other service businesses are service businesses as well. Probably different type of services than the ones that you pointed out, but yes, absolutely. I mean, you look around, the economy is run by service-based industries, sort of, today.
It certainly is. Folks, if you just joined us right now, it's 6:12 here on the East Coast. Joining me live right now, he is the executive director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance. David Rosenberg is here tonight live on Jersey First TV. Folks, sharing is caring. If you just joined in right now, click that share button on whatever platform you're watching us on right now. We appreciate the traffic every single week here on Jersey First TV. Now, David, let me sort of delve into more, because I'm one of the few journalists, broadcast journalists in New Jersey that's talking about, I think, the business climate in the state. It seems like many of my colleagues at all these other news sites are virtue signaling and talking about issues that, quite frankly, don't matter on an everyday basis. Like, I talk about kitchen table issues that matter to everyday people, regardless of your background, ethnicity, gender, whatever. I'm talking about kitchen table issues. And I would argue one of my biggest kitchen table talking points that I disseminate every single week is how poor the business climate is here in the state of New Jersey. Again, not just being a broadcast journalist, I've also, as an educator, part of my job is to grade. And I have to tell you that, it's not just COVID, because it's easy to blame Governor Murphy, in terms of, effing up the economy in New Jersey. He was starting to do it before COVID anyway. And it just seems like when you look at governors like Ron DeSantis in Florida, great governors like him, as well as Greg Abbott in the great state of Texas, they got it right. But even before COVID, they get it right. It just seems like red governors know what to do with an economy, a free market economy. Blue governors like Phil Murphy, certainly Andrew Cuomo, thankfully he was removed. Kathy Hochul isn't any better, but we have Ned Lamont in Connecticut. We have the guy in Pennsylvania. It just seems like blue governors, when it comes to common sense as it pertains to economics, it's just not that common.
So before answering, I guess I want to thank you again, Fernando, for sticking to those issues and topics of importance, the kitchen table issues. And as you say, many don't like to bring it up because it's not comfortable to talk about stuff that's not as rosy, as some would want. So, it tends to fall to the sidelines. But it's important to have people like yourself to keep it alive, keep it, keep the conversation going and have this important conversation. So back to your question. Yes, I mean, New Jersey is ranked one of the worst business climates in the state, and I wouldn't blame everything on the current administration or a previous administration. I mean, it's something that happened over the years, the last decades or so. The taxes aren't helping. It's New Jersey is now the most tax state for corporations. However, I will say I am very optimistic seeing the direction that the governor has taken the last couple of months. It seems like the governor and his team have recognized that if we don't want the economy to go haywire in New Jersey, you need to start supporting the businesses and making sure that the businesses aren't hurting. So specifically, that the governor has vowed for no new taxes in the state. That's good. That's a great starting point. As long as as long as you don't have new taxes. Now we could talk about the lowering the older, and then the governor is supporting the sunset of the increase of corporate business taxes that the state has increased a couple of years ago. It's going down from 11%, I believe, to 9 or 9.5%. And again, 9.5 is not where we want to be.
Sure.
But it's a good stepping stone. It's good to start with.
Well, I'll say this also too, because it affects Jewish business owners as well. I mean, New Jersey has, as I talk about constantly here, the highest property taxes in the country, at an average of about $9,200. We know that New Jersey is suffocating homeowners like you and I, and for example, multiple Jewish business owners throughout the state. I mean, again, I can just drive up 5 minutes on River Road into Bergen County, and sure enough, I'll run into neighborhoods that are averaging, $15,000, $16,000. I can drive a little south into Union County, and I'll see towns like Short Hills and Summit that are somewhere between $23,000 to $24,000. So, I mean, over $9,000 on an average when it comes to property tax bills, I just think is outrageous. So, whether it's the business climate or the quality of life climate, it just seems, and again, I don't want to get overly political here, but, governors come and go. You're correct. Governors do come and go. We've had Republican governors, Democrat governors. That's all well and good. But it just seems like Democrats, far left Democrats, okay, that don't understand economics, they don't understand science. For some reason, these are the Democrats that have sort of occupied a permanent residency in Trenton in the legislature. They've been in power for over 20 years. They've had the majorities. Now, let me just say this, though, because where I live in Union City, my mayor is also my state senator, okay? He's one of the more, I would argue, reasonable, blue-collar, working-class legislators in Trenton. He understands his community. He understands that keeping property taxes down is crucial, making sure that the urban enterprise zone remains intact, that, again, the business owners can set up shop in a business-friendly climate. Just seems, though, like the governor, whether it's the new Senate president, because the other Senate president was just as clueless too. He enabled Murphy. Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin does the same thing. And far left Democrats, like the woke, the far left, whatever Democrats that don't understand economics, that don't understand science, are the ones that have the loudest voice in Trenton, David. And at the end of the day, it hurts business owners across the board. Where am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the issues that we're having these days nationally is that the fringes of both parties are having the loudest voice, and that's why it's important for common sense people to voice their opinion and have a voice. And that's literally one of the reasons why we created this. We established this organization, is for business people to have a voice in New Jersey. And as the saying goes, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu, and you get eaten very quickly.
That's right. No, that's definitely a great point, folks. It's 6:19 here on the East Coast. Again, if you're just joining us live right here on Jersey First TV, my guest this week is the executive director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance. He is David Rosenberg. Join us here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. David, certainly a problem. I think you were alluding to it earlier in the program, about anti-Semitism and how that continues to be a serious problem, not just in the business community for Jewish business owners, But altogether, and again, I'm one of those individuals that like to sort of look at different, through maybe different lenses. Obviously, I know it affects you personally more so in your community. I don't want to sort of overstate it or understate it, but on a scale of 1 to 10, one being, I think, mild or, you know, the usual, let's say, racial tensions that exist, right, in any community, to 10 being almost like nuclear, like where it is a serious, serious, life threatening nuclear problem. Where would you rank in New Jersey? I mean, nationally is one thing, but let's just say in New Jersey, how would you want to quantify to our audience tonight how you view the dangers of anti-Semitism?
So I would say it's sort of in the middle. I wouldn't put it at a nuclear level, but I wouldn't put it at the other end of it either. So I would probably go with a 6 because it's slightly more to the side of being cautious and
Well, let me ask you this, because again, it stems from bigotry, and I think that when we talk about bigotry, it stems across all racial lines. There's certainly bigotry against Hispanics, brown people like myself. But unfortunately, I think we've been living in this climate for a while. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here, or as I'm trying to dissect this, tell me where maybe I'm veering off in the wrong direction. But I think that we look at these issues, and oftentimes some people maybe want to minimize and say, well, racism is overblown, and people just throw the word racism out there. And when you're being critical of a certain demographic, immediately it gets political, right? And some on the left would say, well, if A, B, and C is going on, well, then you know what? Then you're a racist, or you're a xenophobe, or you're a homophobe, or a transphobe, or Islamophobe, or whatever. In the case of anti-Semitism, well, maybe it's not as serious. And it just seems like, if you're critical of any community, Jewish, Black, brown, whatever, you know what? The easy mechanism is to say, you know what? Oh, that's racism. That's bigotry. Are we sort of still stuck in that paradigm where it just gets thrown out there for the sake of being thrown out there? Or does it continue to be an overwhelmingly serious problem?
So it is a serious problem, that's for sure. But you brought up a very important point, because there are some people that like to abuse the problem and blow it out of proportion, and that's just as much a serious problem, because then it takes away from it takes away attention from the real problem. So that's why I'm always cautious, and I don't like to go to call people anti-Semites, or that they're anti-Semitic, or this was a hate crime and anti-Semitic. You have to watch the language very much so to de-escalate instead of escalating the differences.
Now, would you say that perhaps maybe pop culture, to some extent, movies, television, music, whatever, has maybe done a disservice to this problem because it sort of amplifies anti-Semitism or creates anti-Semitism? I mean, case in point, for example, we all know Joe Rogan is one of the more popular podcast hosts in the country. His podcast is listened to by millions of people. And I'm not sure if you saw it on Twitter or it was on YouTube. It got some attention, right? I believe he was discussing, I think with maybe Ben Shapiro, or I think another Jewish community leader. And he just sort of unilaterally just said something like, well, Jews like money, and he's just sort of threw it out there. I'm sort of paraphrasing the phrase, but all in all, I mean, it got him in some hot water. People turn around and say, oh my God, what's Joe Rogan saying? Is he being an anti-Semite? Is he being racist? Is he being just like bringing up other communities? Well, if this about Hispanics or this about Black people, it just seems like maybe pop culture has done a disservice to this entire paradigm by sort of normalizing it. Is that fair to say too?
Look, it's something that I'm not familiar of, so I wouldn't say yes or no. Sometimes what he said, Jews like money. I wouldn't disagree. I think everyone likes money, right?
I love money.
So do I.
I'm not working for free.
I didn't find yet a person that doesn't like money. again, it's the way you say it. That's for sure.
Sure.
It's in a dismissive manner, and it makes people think that, oh, okay, so you could, makes people repeat it without thinking. But again, I'm not familiar with the specifics of that case.
Sure.
But
I mean, but it's said often. I mean, it's sort of thrown out there, maybe in pop culture, whether the way that maybe Jews are presented or characterized, the way Hispanics are characterized, let's say, in movies and television, books, whatever, Black people, women. It seems like different communities, perhaps at times, can be perceived a certain way. And then that, again, that translates into pop culture, right? Into television, into movie characters, television characters, into themes. And I think oftentimes it does a disservice to communities along all ethnic lines.
yeah, I mean, look, there's so many tropes out there, and sometimes people will talk about an anti-Semitic trope, and I wouldn't even know why is that considered anti-Semitic, and why is that even bad to say? It's very hard to say. Every it's very hard to know where it comes from, why that person said it, and just recently I learned that the SS symbol, right? The swastikas
Sure.
are, I think, in Hindu culture, it's a symbol of good luck or something like that. And I was aware in Union City, actually, there was someone had marked on their car a swastika, and police were called in, and and they investigated it and spoke to the owner of the car and asked what it was all about, and they said, yeah, they did it because of could be it was an anniversary or something, and they it was a symbol of good luck. So before someone comes to the conclusion about anti-Semitism and racism and all those type of bigotry and conclusions, then you first want to know the facts before just throwing out names and stuff.
Absolutely. Well said there. Getting back to the Business Alliance real quick, I know that I had the pleasure of meeting you at the League of Municipalities last November. And certainly I know that's a great party that the NJJBA threw during the league. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. I mean, it seems like you're going from one open bar to another open bar to another open bar to another party to another food. I gained so much weight during the League of Municipalities. There's so much food to eat at all these different parties. I'm like, wait a minute. When I come home and then the next week is Thanksgiving, it's like, my God, I'm like, I'm almost like becoming as, I don't know, as large as some of the newest Victoria's Secret models. It's crazy with all the food there during the month of November. But it's interesting because, we looked at, again, going to the party at the League of Municipalities, obviously a great turnout. Congratulations to that. Obviously,
Thank you.
The NJJBA for that. I mean, is that the sort of event that you'd like to be able to, as well as the executive board of the NJJBA, are those events that you really want to do more regularly, not just at the League of Municipalities, but maybe also in Hudson County or statewide? What can we look forward to in 2023 about events?
So actually, about that event at the League of Municipalities, that was done by so we formed another group, which is an affiliate of the Jewish Business Alliance, which is called the New Jersey Jewish Public Officials Caucus. So similar concept, similar idea that that we have for the Jewish business owner, we formed for the Jewish elected and appointed officials in the state of New Jersey. And so that was, the organization that officially hosted the event at the league. And as you said, there's so much food at the league, very few events have kosher food. So we're proud to be probably the only kosher food venue at the League of Municipalities. And, so that's important. You have people going around 3 days and just looking at food. So we're proud to have at least one event that kosher observant Jews can eat at. But
again, it seems like I have to unfasten my belt buckle every day during those 3 days of the municipalities with all the food that's going around. It's crazy, for sure. David, before I let you go, let me just ask you again, moving forward for the rest of the year, whether it comes to events or maybe seminars, meet and greets, workshops, what can we look forward to later on this year? Again, the weather's getting warmer. Thank God, we're finally out of COVID after 3 years. We've been back to normal for a while, I would argue. Is that something that the NJJBA wants to engage in, more meet and greets, working with, let's say, with other chambers of commerce throughout the state to sort of not just expand the message, but I think to collaborate? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to the business climate, the more communities that collaborate, I would argue, the better.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we are in August. We have our legislative and business luncheon.
Okay.
We're working probably before then. We will have some sort of a symposium about anti-Semitism and and how it pertains to businesses, where we will also involve the local universities and colleges, so that students can learn a lot about that, because it's a lot about giving over the information for the next generation of leaders, right? So we feel that's important to bring in the students. We're having we just had a March, beginning of March 1st, we had an event about the current economy, how businesses can survive or even thrive. And then, as you mentioned, networking. Every event that we do has a networking component to it beforehand. We'll have like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of networking, because it's very important for businesses to network. And it's not about what it's who right?
Yep. I learned that in college, and I learned that in graduate school for sure. Before I let you go, David, again, I've enjoyed this conversation. I think for my audience tonight, it's been extremely educational and enriching to understand, quite frankly, not just the business climate in New Jersey. Because again, here on the program, I talk about politics so much, but it's important to talk about, again, as I mentioned, everyday kitchen table issues. And quite frankly, that's the economy and how it affects our pockets. And quite frankly, whether you're Jewish, Hispanic, Black, white, Asian, I mean, hey, our pockets are getting hit right now. It's a bad economy. Inflation is through the roof. It's not the best economic climate right now, I would argue. And again, it's easy for me to blame, Sleepy Joe, who's probably not watching the show right now because it's way past his bedtime. So he's probably asleep already. But it's easy to sort of fall into that trap. I know that, as you mentioned before, there are multiple layers about what happens, whether it's at the federal level or at the state level, that have an overwhelming impact on the business climate of a state or a country altogether. So I think my audience has really benefited from this extremely educational episode with you today. So before I let you go, I do want to thank you for your time. It's been an amazing combo with you. I look forward to bringing you back on later this summer as an update about what's going on. And quite frankly, I better get an invite to that next networking event, wherever it is. I better get some in my email. Look forward to seeing you again and chatting with you.
Absolutely.
But I do want to thank you for your time again. It's been extremely enlightening to have you on tonight, and that's why I welcome such diversity on this show, intellectually, economically, culturally, and you've checked off all those boxes tonight. So I'm going to thank you for your time. I'll give you the last word tonight here on Real Talk.
So I want to thank you, Fernando, for bringing me on. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation. And yes, again, it's very important to have those conversations, kitchen table, topics, discuss them, and let it not fade. Just keep up the great work, Fernando.
Wow, David, I appreciate the kind words. It would seem that you're a Fernando fan, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But I appreciate you tuning in and giving the show a shot. And certainly, at the end of the broadcast tonight, whenever you can share it, I greatly appreciate it, and certainly all the good work that you do at the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance. Real quick here, important websites, social media for our audience here to learn.
NJJBA.com, Twitter, hashtag at NJJBA tweets.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he is David Rosenberg, the Executive Director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance, joining us here tonight on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. David, I think I can say it, right? God bless you. Keep up the good work, right?
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Looking forward to that, Fernando. Definitely a Fernando fan. I'm born and raised in Union City.
All right.
So you do a great job. Thank you again.
All right. Well, you're welcome. And thank you more for coming on the show, and keep up the good work. Folks, once again, he is David Rosenberg, the Executive Director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance, joining us here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Have a great night, David. We'll talk to you again soon.
Good night. Talk soon.
Good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care now.
All the best, Fernando. Thanks. Same to you.
Folks, great episode here tonight again with David Rosenberg, the executive director of the New Jersey Jewish Business Alliance, of course. And as I mentioned before, and he mentioned specifically, make sure you check it out at www.njjba.com. All the resources there, not just for Jewish business owners, but quite frankly, for anyone that's interested in understanding the business climate here in Hudson County and throughout the state of New Jersey. It's a great resource. Again, check it out, njjba.com. Folks, again, before we call it a night here, let me do some final thoughts here on the program. And of course, I like to browse the social media feeds and certainly the news cycle in the state of New Jersey. And of course, he doesn't disappoint, as always, here in New Jersey. Tom Moran, the resident virtue signaler, the editor-in-chief of the editorial board at the Star-Ledger, of course, publishing one of his many useless columns, as we all know, via the Star-Ledger editorial board. But this is one that really, really caught my eye because it's Tom Moran again, virtue signaling here. And basically being a propagandist openly for the left in New Jersey, and quite frankly, not practicing any sort of objectivity here. But his latest column was interesting. I'm not going to read it all to you, but really the column starts by just saying DeSantis goes wobbly on Ukraine, a gift to Putin. Now, again, I'm not going to bore you folks because, again, it's only 6:30. I don't want to put you to sleep this early in the evening. But what Tom Moran really aggravates me quite often is how intellectually dishonest he is. And this is just yet another example. We look at Governor Ron DeSantis, arguably a favorite to run for president representing the Republican Party in 2024. He has not yet announced. He just won re-election in an overwhelming fashion last November in the great state of Florida, the freedom-loving state of Florida, by the way, folks, that A, got COVID right, B, has a great economy, and C, is a guy that is staying up for parents and not acquiescing to all the woke nonsense that many on the left, specifically Tom Moran, subscribes to. Okay? But this is what's interesting because pretty much, he's going after Ron DeSantis for sort of being lukewarm and basically saying that this is not a problem for the United States. And you know what? I've been saying it consistently on this show, and I'll continue to say it. It's not our problem. I particularly don't care. It's not because I'm unfeeling or because I'm unsympathetic. Folks, that is a problem in that region of the world. Okay? That's NATO's problem. That's problems for France and Poland and England and Germany and Italy. Those are countries that should be focused on helping Ukraine, not the United States. We shouldn't be sending billions and billions of dollars over there. So Governor DeSantis is right. And it's funny about someone like Tom Moran, who whenever Republicans want to start a war, yes, you know what? Republicans are evil. Why isn't Tom Moran equally outraged about this president going to war or ultimately helping Ukraine during this war against Russia? Folks, again, it's not our problem. I know it sounds harsh. I know it sounds cruel. But folks, I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm not here to coddle you or to baby you or to be like, everything's going to be okay. No, folks, it's not. The world is rough. The world is tough. The world's a cruel place. Okay? And quite frankly, what Tom Moran is doing is expanding upon the propaganda. Okay? By going after Ron DeSantis because he doesn't care enough about Ukraine the way Tom Moran does. Well, who the hell is Tom Moran? Okay? Is Tom Moran the end-all be-all for foreign policy? I hope not. He's not the end-all be-all for journalistic policy, for God's sakes. But again, this is the blatant dishonesty you've come to expect from Tom Moran by vilifying someone like Ron DeSantis, who's not yet announced his run for president. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. We don't know. Okay? He's doing an exceptional job as governor. Okay? As exhibited by the mass migration out of New York and New Jersey to the state of Florida. Why? Because the state of New Jersey continues to be unaffordable. You think Tom Moran would talk about that? No, he would rather virtue signal and, cry me a river about Ukraine. Folks, again, quite frankly, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It shouldn't affect us. We shouldn't be sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. We have issues here in this country. We should be feeding and providing housing for veterans. We should be providing better medical care for our seniors. Okay, for expanding Medicare, for even helping for Medicaid, let's say for single mothers or working class people that maybe still can't afford it because guess what? New Jersey's becoming unaffordable. That's where our billions of dollars should be going to. Not sending it out to President Zelensky, one of the more corrupt presidents on this planet. Of course not. But Tom Moran won't tell you that because, again, he prefers to virtue signal and continue to be intellectually dishonest and then really get to the core of the problem. It's not our problem. It's Poland's problem and Germany's problem and Italy's problem and England's problem and France's problem. Folks, it's NATO's problem. Let them handle it, okay? Putin's Russia isn't anywhere near being a superpower like it used to be. But people like Tom Moran will sort of amplify how dangerous Russia is and how it interferes in elections. It never does that. It never does that stuff. But Tom Moran will make you believe that. Again, folks, the last thing you need to be doing is trusting people like Tom Moran because, quite frankly, it's just not believable. And it's not Jersey First or other reputable news sites like Hudson County View or the New Jersey Globe that's going around sending emails begging people like NJ.com does for $1 to subscribe to their bad news site. And unfortunately, I hate to tell you, they're not going to get any more subscribers with people like Tom Moran leading the ship. Again, you want to keep being, intellectually dishonest, Tom, do it at your own peril, but you do it at the peril of not getting more subscribers to what is already an awful news site with an awful editorial board headed by an awful person. Speaking of awful people, yes, folks, let me tell you once again about Jay Lassiter. Seems like Jay Lassiter had some issues once again last week with some comments I made on this program and decided to go after me on Twitter. And I happily clapped back at him, and certainly he felt that maybe tagging me was okay, right? And what was really interesting, right, by this is Jay Lassiter talking about, again, as you can see there, get to know Fernando Uribe, the festering herpes sore of New Jersey politics. What's kind of interesting, Jay, it's kind of ironic because if anybody should know about herpes sores, it would be you, Jay. And the reason your quality of life and your health is what it is because of obviously knowing a lot about herpes sores. I'll let you imagine whatever you want, folks. So kind of ironic for Jay Lassiter to call anybody a herpes sore of New Jersey politics when he's sort of a walking herpes sore to begin with. I don't know. I haven't seen his blood work lately or his medical reports, but venture to guess that's probably the case with Jay Lassiter. So of course I love Jay giving me more traffic and bringing me more followers, right? If he thought that it was going to get me vilified or canceled, that's not the case. So of course he goes on rants there, and again I'm not going to bore you with the specifics there, but it's interesting about Jay Lassiter not having awareness, and we all know that he doesn't. So perpetually going after me on Twitter and trying to call me out as vile or misogynist, that's just not the case. All right. And unfortunately, what's happening, again, and this is Jay lacking awareness, as we all know. It's, again, as I mentioned before, a grown man, again, and I had to answer Jay on Twitter and go after him by saying, again, a grown man in his mid to late 70s, because you look at Jay, I hate to break it to you, you look more worn out than my softball gloves. Okay. But somehow Jay Lassiter thinks that a grown man in his mid to late 70s smoking weed out of a bong on social media, like he's trying to be cool, like he thinks he's back in his 20s, or he's trying to impress some superficial friends online on social media, is the end all be all. That's someone I'm supposed to take seriously. And of course, as I made it a point to tag him on Instagram, which is where I got the video from, coincidentally, wow, it seems like he deactivated his Instagram. I wonder why. Maybe somebody at Insider and Jay sat him down and said, hey, Jay, by the way, this is a bad look for us. You're a grown man. You shouldn't be smoking bongs because you're representing us. Maybe, maybe somebody in the Graham family got off their ass and maybe had a sit down with Jay Lassiter. Maybe Pete Ornelia, when he's not too busy, I don't know, playing with his dog, whatever, or Max Pizarro, whether or not he's riding horses all day or horses are riding him, maybe had a little bit of intervention with Jay and told me, you know what? You're a grown man. Maybe not as old as Fernando makes you out to be, which I think you are. But the point is that it's a bad look, Jay. Again, it's about having awareness. Okay. You're 20 something years older, if not 30 years, something older than me. I have awareness. Why don't you? But again, folks, what was interesting was the idea about others, sort of his minions on his social media feed, wishing to opine and take shots at me as well. And one person specifically I wanted to take to task, obviously, as you can see there, a grown man smoking a bong, thinking that's cool to do in 2023 when you're a grown-ass man. I don't know, folks, maybe call me uptight or call me someone that's maybe a little antiquated. If you're professional, you don't put that out there on social media. But again, Jay, that will require you having awareness. We all know you don't have any. But also what I think is lacking awareness is the people that enable you, right? People like Corinne Frankfurt, right? Who has the audacity to write that what I wrote to Jay in responses is disgusting. Sweetheart, let me tell you something. You know what's disgusting? Okay. The way that you, okay, in your capacity in New Jersey at one time, helping to get Phil Murphy elected, right? And of course, in your time of working, as they say, with, the New York State Dems, which we'll get to in a minute, right? This is a woman who decided to campaign with Chelsea Handler, another vile, insufferable woman in not just politics, but pop culture, back in 2017. So the reason that, New Jersey has the highest property tax in the country, that we continue to suffocate New Jerseyans with taxation and forcing people to move out of the state. You know what? You know what's disgusting, sweetheart? Your enabling of these bad policies. So, folks, when you see Corinne Frankfurt, okay, and you're pissed off about why the state's unaffordable, go up to Corinne and remind her. Or, for example, maybe working with New York State Senate Democrats, which we all know that in the state of New York, it has become an outright abyss. It's become a cesspool, whether it's bad policies like bail reform and everything else. Just like New Jersey is becoming a dump to live in, New York is becoming one as well. Because what she's doing is working for New York State Democrats in the state Senate to make sure they get reelected. So all the bad policies that continue to make New York a dump, you know what? You can thank Corinne Frankfurt for that. So, sweetheart, when you want to talk about what's disgusting, have a little awareness, because if anything's disgusting, it's your enabling of bad policies, not my supposed misogyny, as much as you'd like to think it is. Just because Jay Lasher says something doesn't necessarily make it true. So have a little awareness, honey. Speaking about not having awareness, another person who decided to maybe opine and join in on Jay's little rants about me on Twitter was Anjali Malhotra, the former president of the New Jersey chapter of the National Organization for Women, right? Another insufferable woman, just like Corinne and the others that support Jay Lasser. We all know who they are, right? Former legislators, insufferable Latinas. We all know who they are, right? And this is the problem, that these are the people that enable Jay Lasser. They don't give him a moment of pause and say, Jay, what's wrong with you? Like going after someone when you shouldn't be throwing rocks in a glass house is pretty myopic. Speaking of myopic, yep, that's Anjali Malhotra as well. Daring to accuse me of misogyny when, quite frankly, she's the type of feminist that finds misogyny in everything. I could almost imagine Anjali Malhotra being at a Walgreens or a Stop and Shop. And if the cashier gives her the wrong change and it's a man, oh, it has to be misogyny. If she takes her car to get washed and her tires aren't sprayed on with wax, or, the car's not shining and beaming after a wash, and if the guys washing the cars don't do a good job, it has to be misogyny. These are the type of people, folks, that continue to pollute today's political climate, right? And that's, again, for someone like Anjali Malhotra to have not awareness just like the others that enable Jay Lasser, like Corinne Frankfurt, like Maria Rodriguez-Gregg, and all the other minions that Jay Lasser has, who, whether they like comments or like posts or anything else, folks, again, it's these grown-ass women, right, lacking awareness. By not sitting Jay down and, quite frankly, saying, Jay, you continue to make a fool of yourself, smoking bongs on social media. Have a little more awareness. Stop being a propagandist. You think Anjali Malhotra would have that sit down with Jay? No, she'd rather cry about misogyny because she wants to find misogyny in anything and everything. But again, folks, that's the type of people and the type of minions that support Jay Lasser. So no surprise there. But of course, folks, you know what? I'm a gentleman. And of course, in honor of Women's History Month, and certainly to pay my respects to women like Corinne Frankfurt, Anjali Malhotra, and Jay Lasseter, you know what, folks? Without a doubt, happy Women's History Month. And do us all a favor, ladies, try not to hit the curb when you're parking, will you? Yeah, we'd appreciate that, okay? I'm sure so would your mechanics as well. Folks, and it's interesting because, if anything, what we've learned, right? Because, of course, going on social media, trying to take shots at me, that doesn't work, folks, okay? And I know Easter's right around the corner. And, of course, for us Christians and Catholics, we take the 10 Commandments very sacredly and very seriously. Well, let me add an 11th commandment. And quite frankly, folks, thou shalt not pick a fight with Fernando Uribe online because he will cook you. And I'll continue cooking you, just like I did cook these ladies tonight during my final thoughts. Folks, and that's our show for this week. Once again, make sure you like the episodes on Facebook, share it on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, as well as Jersey First TV. Wherever you get your podcast, download them and take them with you anywhere at any time. Folks, again, I can't say enough about how educational, how engaging, how entertaining we are here at Jersey First TV. You can check out new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Steve Rimbolo on Thursdays, as well as the Nader Narrative, hosted by Elizabeth Nader. New episodes every Thursday. And of course, folks, you can check out Real Talk with Fernando Uribe every Monday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Folks, sharing is caring. I always appreciate all of you that share the episodes, whether you watch it live and when you share it during the week as well. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is always Real Talk with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Yes, folks, more awards are coming. Stay tuned for that. Certainly the Top 100 Latino via Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and 2022, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. And yes, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, yours truly, folks. Fernando Uribe saying so long, ladies and gentlemen. Happy spring. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, thank you so much for watching.